that's that. Now, welcome back to Stockman Originals. I'm Brian. Today we're going to do some basic wood carving. I've showed you some carving and stuff in the past, and I've been using all, my chisels and gouges and things like that. But when I first started out, and a lot of you guys are just starting out, I used an Xacto knife. It's all I had. I didn't know how to sharpen a blade at the time. These Xacto knives, they come so sharp right out of the package. They're great. They're not perfect, but they're a great start. If they were perfect, I wouldn't have bought a bunch of chisels and stuff like that. But I started out with them, so I thought I'd show you what I can do with one of these as what you can do with one of these. And one of my favorite subjects back in the day was birds, and mostly I liked hawks and owls and things like that. And so I'm gonna carve a little fat owl. It's a straight blade. They do have, Xacto makes different tools. They have some little gouges and things like that. As an entry level, they're good, they're affordable, they're pretty much everywhere. You can find them in stationery shops, craft shops, woodworking, whatever. So anyway, I use my thumb for a fulcrum a lot of times when I'm carving. Gives you a little bit of leverage. This is a piece of basswood, very nice, light, fairly soft, tight grain, holds good detail, doesn't kill you to carve it, not like a piece of beech. Start with the shoulders. On an owl, they got such a big head, the shoulders don't stick out quite as much as on a hawk. Let's begin here. I'm gonna just take off a little piece there and another piece on the other side here. These two is about the same. I'm going to do the sweep of his back. Start down a little bit further here. This is referred to as flat plane carving. If you're going to do little figurines, caricatures and stuff like that, these knives work fine for that. Something about noticing, reminding myself. I haven't used an Xacto knife in a long time because the blade is so thin with steel and it goes right into this little handle here. You have to be careful that when you're trying to get a low angle carve like that, that your handle doesn't leave a mark in the wood. Carve it off. So what I like to do when I'm roughing out a carving is I'll do one profile and then I'll turn it and do the other. And then you can go in and start rounding it off more. So I'm going to do that, continue to do that. Now I'm going to kind of profile the belly and the face area. I'm going to have them kind of looking down a little bit. So you can see I'm carving down into a, what would you call it? Yeah. Yeah, valley. Topographically, I guess you call it a valley. So there, yeah.
Okay, so I can see, yeah, there's a sweep to it.
Yeah, I want his face to be kind of pointing down a little bit. So I'll bring the top of his head down a bit too, actually creating some little horns. Leave that there for a moment. Back to the back of the head. Now you can almost kind of see where I'm going with the head here. At the little corners, that these will end up being the tufts, or what they call ears, horns, whatever. You call them all those things. Now I'm going to undercut his belly here. It's hard for me to remember how to use one of these things.
Main thing is don't chop your fingers.
I got a bunch of scars on my hands from these things. Just having a conversation with some folks the other day about carving with knives and how risky it can be, but it's so worth it in the end. Now we've got a profile of his little belly. Getting into it like this, I start to see it more clearly. You know, when you start out, you're like, oh, no. But now I see that I want his tail to probably end right about there. So I'll put a little reminder there, kind of like that. This would be a good time to define his shoulders more. Like I said, they don't have as pronounced shoulder as, say, a hawk or an eagle or something like that, but they do have some. Tell you, all the little songbirds know what the outline of an owl looks like. Okay, so now I'm kind of giving a little place for where I'm going to end up putting his feet. One thing you do have to worry about or be aware of with Xactos, they might not actually have been designed for carving, though they've been used for carving by a lot of people. They're probably most useful in the graphic arts department for cutting and paper and films and things like that. They have a very sharp blade. They have a nice, that angle is very handy. I have bigger chisels and things that have that skewed profile, but they're thin, okay? They're very thin, and they can snap, and that can be a recipe for disaster if you're not paying attention. Just thought I'd mention. So you want to make sure all your cuts are pretty much straight in, and don't try to force an issue. Okay, so we're kind of getting a basic recognizable shape that I'm after. Now I'm going to go in for the details and stuff, like laying out the wings and the feet and face and so forth. Okay, now they're handy. Okay, so I got a little wing action going on here, sketched in a little bit. Might change that up just a tad. Got it. Got it like that. I'm going to use the tip of it to cut out on the wing. That's what some would refer to as a stopping cut. You'll see in a second as I take the background down a bit. It kind of stops me from taking the wing off as well. I've had a lot of parents of young children ask about how to get their kids into carving at a young age. I would not recommend this to start off with. I was probably 12 or 13 when I started doing this. It's like 50 years ago. But like I said, I got got a lot of scars over the years from it. But a really good, in that situation, if you've got young kids and they want to get into doing reduction carving, my suggestion is always get a bar of soap. Ivory. And with that, you can put them with a spoon and a butter knife and other not terribly sharp implements. But what it teaches them is reduction work, which is a whole different ball game than building something up from clay, which is a lot of fun too, but it's a different thing. So to get your mind working on reduction, you know, once it's gone kind of thing. A bar of soap, good start point, good clean fun. Another thing about these Xacto knives, to change the blades, you unscrew it like this and pull the collar down and the blade comes out. You will notice as you're carving that you have to keep tightening that back up. Stuff outlined here. Now I'm going to kind of remove some of the background under him. Another thing these Xacto knives are good for on a starter level is scrimshaw for cutting fine lines and things like that. So now I've released enough wood below him here to start rounding his body off a little bit to meet it, because as we're looking at it here, we know his tail doesn't look like that. Okay, so we're gonna take away some of this material here. Be a good time to compare that with that. You can see back here, it's kind of narrowing up. Owl's tail feathers don't hang down much past what their wings do. That's why I've got, you know, the wings come just about almost down to his tail. In this particular one, he's like a little screech owl, we'll say. This is the nitpickly part where you're just kind of like picking away at details and stuff. Noticing, oh, that doesn't belong there. You've heard that a million times, I'm sure. Just take away everything that's not an owl, or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
Oh, is that how you carve?
Well, it kind of is. That explanation is probably as old as our ancestors carving mammoth ivory. Just take away everything that's not a mammoth. Take out that little diamond and you got some wings defined. They've got a way their wings fold up. Get kind of a little business going on like this. Do the same. To the overlay the wings. Right, so here he's got kind of like a little hood with his head coming down into his backside here. Bring that down to a V, sort of. Now you kind of see me flicking, turning the blade as you go, and you can get into little hollows and out again, which works better on the pointed end, the end of the blade, than up in the heel.
But this is also where you were saying careful not to snap the
It is.
snap the blade.
It's one of those things like anything, learning curve. Gotta learn your tool, but you can get away with what you can't. Please let us know if this is helping using a simpler tool for y'all, because I mean, I show you a bunch of stuff, but you know, I don't want to use a bunch of tools that y'all can't just get your hands on. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe. All right, so I'm gonna go around this outer skin, the subcambium skin of the wood. As you get further into the process, your chips get smaller.
Either your chips get smaller or your curses get larger.
Exactly. Whoops. Okay, now I can put in some of the more defining details. It does feel kind of like an old long lost buddy. This Xacto knife. Remember you. For defining details, I'm going to start with the face, because that'll be fun. The brows above the horns there, tufts. Go in a little bit more of an angle here. Keeps coming unscrewed. Screws loose. Telling me that for years. My horns are a little more defined. Now, I'm going to do the same kind of thing down here. My beautiful dish faces. These aren't actual ears, by the way. Their ears are hidden back in here. The shape of their faces help to direct sound into their ears. Their ears are huge, but you don't see them under the feathers. Owls not only have impressive eyebrows, but they've got a really cool little mustache thing going on. So we're going to try to define that. Moving it about, showing it and stuff. And then I see it from different perspectives. Like, oh wait, that's gonna go. That's not part of an owl. Now I'm gonna cut his beak in, and then his eyes. I've cut down the side of the beak here and then there to bring that out, and exposed it just with the very tip. And cut it back in a bit. There is, for the sake of this little rustic fellow, probably as good a beak as I'll get. All right, so for the eyes, I'm going to use pencil on eyes. A pencil will keep you from making horrible, horrible mistakes. And that looks pretty good for the sake of such a little creature. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to follow those lines with the Xacto knife around, and then I'm going to carve away the background, which will bring the eyes out. They'll look like little pills sitting there then, squared off and everything. And then we'll go back and carve the eye round, and that will make it all better. You can see the little horseshoe cut. Do the same on the other side. First one's easy. Second one, you have to make it look like the first one. There. Right. Those must show up pretty good. And there are the eyes, the little, in their little pill form, little buttons. So now I'm gonna round them off. All right, here's a comparison of one rounded over and one still in the button phase. All right, so that's probably as detailed a face as I'm gonna get. This is a parting tool, or a V-gouge. V-gouge parting tool, they're great for detailing lines for hair and other things. I would, these days, ordinarily use a smaller version of this to cut in the little detail lines that I'm putting in now with a knife. With a knife, you have to go in from two different directions till it meets down in the bottom, and a little chip falls out. And it leaves you with these nice little details. I just wanted to show the chip coming out. Yep. Good. All right, so that's a little detail that I'm going to do with a knife from two different directions this way. You have to have a wee bit of a delicate touch for that. because when the character starts to come out in a little booger. Go out on a limb. Cut in his pupils. A little bit, come on. Triangular. I think this face is about as far as I'm going to take it for this little whittle. Now we're going to do little feeties. And owls have 4 toes, but generally 2 are in the front and 2 are in the back. It must make for better grab or something. But when you see them sitting on a limb, 9 times out of 10, you'll see 2 toes in the front and 2 in the back. Just undercutting his tail a wee bit here. Carefully. See, at this point, the knife can go kind of under the tail and out the other side. That's a good time to know where your fingers are. Nice thing about the thinness of these blades is that you can get into these tight spots. You're gonna lay in some feathers. Now with those lines cut in, you can just go right up to them. For the sake of this demonstration with this little Xacto knife, we've pretty much finished up this little hooter. If you like what you see and you want to enter to win, we're going to have a little raffle. So comment on this video and we'll do a drawing and
maybe say
we'll cut it off a little bit so it's not such a big thing to send. Don't need all that. That's carving an owl with an Xacto blade. As simple as it gets.